Drizzle on the window, coffee in my hand. Morning starts so slowly in our sleepy land. Raindrops keep on dancing.
Hi, welcome to Once Upon Stitch Nook at my desk where the creativity happens. So I am doing some tutorials for the Jasmine set. I already did a tutorial for the cat beanie here. You can see I will link that tutorial below. I'll also have a written pattern. And then we're going to do the fingerless glove set. We're doing it in this purple colorway. I also have made it in these two colorways, very fun. So you'll need about 3 colors. Here I used 4 colors. I alternated yellow and green. But yeah, at least you'll want about 3 colors to follow the tutorial. So here you see how it is. It has, it's kind of chunky, but I really like that with this stitch. And so we're going to show, I'm going to show you how to make the fingerless glove. And we are using here my 3 colors. I wrapped up some of this. This is, I love this yarn brand. I don't know the color, but it's like a lilac or something. Both of these are soft and sleek. This is the purple gray multicolor, and this is, I think, just purple. Yeah. So let's get into it. Oh, and you want scissors, no, I don't think you need tapestry needle, and a 3.5 millimeter hook. So let's get into it. So we are going to say this is either your number 1 yarn or your main yarn. This is a multicolor yarn. In like this example, it's the pink. And then you have your 2 other ones. And you want to pick which one you're going to see more. So which one you're going to be using for the ribbing. So this would be 1, 2 as it's the second important, and then 3, which is just a little more of a trim color. So we're starting with the second color and our ribbing color. But we're not starting with the ribbing in this case. The ribbing will be added on at the end. So you're going to do a chain of 28. You can adjust this if you need a bigger size. You're going to see how it wraps around your 4 fingers. If it has a good enough stretch, I do recommend making them somewhat loose. Just make sure they are a multiple of 2. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, there's 28. Make sure you don't twist your chain as you bring the ends together and slip stitch to join. There we go. You're going to chain 1, and then you're going to single crochet into each chain. So nice and simple, you're just going to single crochet your way all the way across. And you can either do it on the upper side or in the back loops. That's up to you, what you prefer. I usually prefer the back loops, but in this case I find I don't want to twist or maneuver my yarn to be on the other side. Doesn't make that much of a difference for this project. So I'm just going to single crochet regularly into each chain, and so I should end up with 28 single crochets. I'll see you at the end of the round. All right, here you see I've worked my way all the way around, and then we're going to slip stitch to join. But I want to do a color change, so I like to do that as I transition to the next row. So you're going to bring in your main color or your first color. So for me, that's this multicolor. So pretty. Okay. And so I'm going to use that to slip stitch the join. And then I'm going to do a loose chain 1. And then what we're going to do is do a 2-petal Jasmine stitch. If you've seen the other tutorials in this collection, you'll be familiar with this, but I'll go over it here. You're going to yarn over, insert into the same stitch you're in, yarn over, pull through. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. Now you're going, and I'm going to kind of work this tail into it as I go, but I'm going to leave the purple in the back. I'm going to skip a stitch, yarn over, and insert into the next stitch. Yarn over, pull through. You now have 5 loops on your hook. You're going to hold this active yarn, I kind of like to choose it at the base here. You're going to hold it while you yarn over and pull through all your loops. You want to make sure that there is enough here that you can still poke through, because watch what happens if I don't do that. So if you were just to do it normally, yarn over, pull through all the way, it's in there. It's not, you can't find it, and we need that for the stitch. That's what helps give it that definition and puffiness. So I'm going to hold it down, yarn over, pull through. There we go. And so you can see still where that yarn is. So I'm going to insert my hook into that loop and you want to kind of make sure it's just enough that you can fit your hook through, not too loose. You know, you'll find the right tension. Yarn over, pull through that loop and pull through the loop that's on your hook. So both loops. So there we are. And this is a 2-petal Jasmine stitch. Now we're going to do what's just referred to as the Jasmine stitch. But what that is just 3 petals, where here we made 2 petals. So these are the 2 legs of the flower, or 2 petals of the flower. And it's going to follow a similar principle. You're going to chain 1 loosely, yarn over, and to do this petal, we want kind of a petal that's going to be midway in the flower. So that's going to go into this spot here, which is the center of the flower. So you're going to yarn over, insert into there, yarn over, pull through. Then you're going to yarn over, insert into the same stitch you ended in here, yarn over, pull through. You're going to skip a stitch, yarn over, insert into the next hook. I have a knot there, let's ignore that. Yarn over, pull through. So here you see we have 7 instead of 5 loops on our hook. And then we're going to do the same thing as we pull through all the loops. We're going to hold our active yarn, yarn over, and pull through those loops. Since there are quite a few of them, sometimes you need to finagle your way to make sure it goes through all of them. And then we still have this area where we can insert our hook into. I'm going to insert, yarn over, pull through both that loop and the loop on your hook. So you see how that created a petal here. You'll see it more as we get more of them going. And then the 2 here. So it's just a bunch of flowers that are going to be kind of bunched up against each other. So I'll go a little faster here, chain 1, and then a jasmine stitch. So you'll go into the center of the flower, into the same stitch as this other petal is in already. Skip 1, insert into the next one, and now you have all your loops on your hook. You'll hold your yarn as you yarn over and pull through all those loops. So you still have a nice hole or loop here. You'll insert, yarn over, and pull through both loops. So that's building it. I'll do it one more time a little faster. And you're going to do this all the way around until you end your last stitch. So the last leg petal should end into your first stitch here. So we'll see how that looks once we get ourselves all the way around. But go ahead, practice this a bit, and I'll see you at the end of the round. Okay, I'm doing my last jasmine stitch here, and you see I have 1 stitch left in the round, other than the slip stitch we had, and then I'm working the last part of the jasmine stitch into the first stitch we worked into. So here we are, I finished that, and you'll notice that there's a missing gap here where the petals have been. And let's take a look at our petals and flowers, by the way, looking very pretty. And so you're going to just need to add an extra petal here. So you're just going to make 1 petal. So chain 1 loosely, yarn over, insert into the center, and yarn over, pull through as usual. And so we're not going to make any more petals. So what you're going to do is hold the yarn down again, the active yarn, yarn over, pull through all 3 of your loops, insert into that opening space, yarn over, and pull through all those loops. Now we're going to want to slip stitch into the center of the flower here. And what I like to do is, right now I just have 1, but we'll have 2 colors here pretty soon. I like to bring them up and cinch them down so I can use them without cutting and weaving in as many ends as I slip stitch this. So you see how it's tagged on in the back and it's not going to be loose, or you won't feel it with your fingers when you put your hand through. Now chain one loosely and make the 2 petal stitch like we did before. So into our first, in here we're treating these center points, these little circles, as the stitches we're working in, and when we were normally skipping, we're just going to be skipping over these mid petals. So work into that first center and then into the next flower center or next point. So you have your 5 loops, hold your yarn as you yarn over, pull through, insert, yarn over, pull through. And now here we're not going to make another mid petal, and in place of that you're just going to chain 1 and then make another 2 petal jasmine stitch. So again, you're going to go into the spot or stitch that you're already in, yarn over, pull through, you're skipping over that mid petal into the next point, yarn over, pull through, and finish the jasmine stitch as usual. You'll chain 1 and then continue. And again, you're going to end up by ending your last 2 petal jasmine stitch, in this case, into the first stitch you made in this round, and chaining 1 between each 2 petal jasmine stitch. So just do that all the way around. Okay, here I am. I've done my last 2 petal stitch. I'm going to chain 1 more, and then we're going to slip stitch into that center point of this flower. So you see how these flowers are developing, but we want less bulk at the top of here, so the next row can make these more defined. So anyway, since I'm going to do a color change on this slip stitch, I'm not going to use this yarn, and I'm going to introduce the 3rd color. So I'm using this light purple, this lilac color, and I'm going to introduce that to slip stitch this, and I'm going to tighten that up, chain 1, and now as we go around here, we're treating the center points and these chain spaces as the stitches we're working into. So to show you, when I say single crochet around for this row, you're treating the center point as a stitch, and you're treating the chain space as a stitch. You'll notice there's kind of 2 chains if you look from the top, because of how the jasmine stitch needs that extra yarn over, pull through motion, but you're treating just the chains and the center points as the stitches. So you're going to single crochet, oops, I didn't mean to work over all those things, just the light purple tail. You're going to single crochet around until 4 stitches remain. So again, that means 2 centers and then 2 chains. And so I'll show you what that looks like once I get there. So just single crochet until you have about 4 left. Okay, so I have 4 stitches left. And so since we started our row into the center point, you'll notice then that this chain, center, chain, center represent the last 4 stitches. We're not going to work into those because we're making the thumb hole. You're going to chain 8 fairly loosely. So we're kind of doubling that count, and then slip stitch into the first stitch. Now I'm going to, because I found there's often a little disjoint here. Well, no, that's a little complicated. So as I slip stitch, I'm going to bring in the 2nd color, or dark purple color, like so. Tighten that up, chain 1, and then I'm going to single crochet all the way around, and then when we get to the chain, I'm going to single crochet 8 into the chain. So that's pretty simple and straightforward. I won't walk you through that carefully. So just go ahead and single crochet all the way around. All right, so you see how I have worked 8 single crochets into the chain here. You're going to see a little bit of that light purple poke out. Sometimes it's not as evident, like with this one, you don't see the green as much. You could tighten, but I like to keep everything loose. An alternative, if that does really bother you, go back to this row, join the purple at the chain as you then secure it here. That's up to you. It doesn't bother me that much. And so as I slip stitch the join, I'm bringing in my main color, my first color, my multicolor yarn. So I use that to slip stitch. And then here, all the following Jasmine rows, you're going to repeat these 2 rows exactly. So I'm not going to go over that again. You're just going to do your 2 post Jasmine stitches, then your full Jasmine stitches, which is 3 petals. At the end, you'll need to add an extra petal before you join. Then you'll do your 2 post Jasmine stitches on the top with a chain in between. So go ahead and do those 2 rows. You can go back if you need a refresher for these 2 rows, and then we'll come back and do something different for the next 2 rows. All right, so here you see it's really developing. I'll slip this on so you get an idea. Now, don't worry if this looks too low for you. It's supposed to. We're going to build off of that with some ribbing, unless you like it like this. But now you can see how we kind of are building around the thumb and lowering it down. So I've done my 2 rows for the jasmine flower. Now I'm going to slip stitch, and of course I'm going to change my color. So we're going to be kind of repeating that we do the jasmine stitch, light, dark, jasmine stitch, light, dark, or again, first color, third color. I know that's a little confusing, or whatever you want to do. But in my case, that's the order I'm going in. So that means I need to bring in my light purple, which I've been carrying up in the back, slip stitch that, chain 1, and then again, we're going to single crochet around, treating the centers and the chains as the stitch placements. Now, you're going to single crochet around until you have 8 stitches left. So again, just keep in mind, you want 8 chains and centers, chain spaces and centers, I suppose I should say. So do that all the way around until you get to the 8. Okay, I have 8 stitches or points left. And so we're going to start decreasing on this round. Now, when I decrease on this particular round, I simply like to skip a stitch. So I'm going to skip a stitch and work into the next one. So that is counting as my decrease, which takes up 2 stitches. Then I'm going to single crochet into the next 2 stitches. Then I'm going to decrease again. And in this case, I just like to skip the center point and into the chain, and then single crochet into the last 2. And so now we're going to want to change color and slip stitch. I'm bringing in the darker purple, my second color, and now chain 1, and I'm going to single crochet all the way around until I have 6 stitches left. So this should be a little more clear way to count your stitches now, so just go ahead until you have 6 stitches left. Okay, I've worked my way around. I have 6 stitches left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. So you're going to decrease, and in this case, skipping makes kind of a hole. So I decrease by inserting, yarning over like I'm going to do a single crochet, inserting, yarning over like I'm going to do another crochet, yarning over, pulling through those 2. Then I'm going to single crochet 1, decrease again, so over the next 2, and then single crochet once more. Now I'm going to slip stitch to join. I'm going to get my main color, my multicolor, to join that, cinch that up, chain 1 loosely, and now I'm going to do the 2 rows for the jasmine stitch. So go ahead and do that. Okay, I've done my 2 rows of the jasmine stitches. I'm going to slip stitch with joining the light purple yarn, chain 1, and I'm going to single crochet all the way around as regular. Then I'll join with the darker purple, single crochet around as regular. That's very simple and straightforward. Then we'll do another repeat of the jasmine stitch, and then I'll pick up with you after that point. So basically you're just going to be stacking up single crochet rows and then the 2 jasmine rows. Oh yeah, and then one more row of the single crochet in your third color, or in my case, my light purple color. I keep wanting to call it pink because it kind of looks pink in comparison. But yeah, just single crochet, 2 jasmine rows, and then 1 more single crochet row. All right, here is where we're at. So as I said, we did 2 rows of just single crochet, 2 rows to make the jasmine flower, and then 1 more row of the single crochet. And so now what we're going to do, I'll give you a look. You can go longer if you want to keep going. We're going to be adding about this much trim, something about here, about so, right? So if you want it longer, you can, of course, you can take off this row if you want it smaller, or after these rows, once you do here, if you wanted more like wrist cuffs, I think that would be cute actually. You can start adding the ribbing, adjust as you like. But here's just the pattern as is. So we're going to, of course, slip stitch to join by changing color, or at least that's how I like to do it. We're going to the dark purple color, the ribbing color. So what we're going to do here, and I'm going to start working over my other 2 colors because we're not going to need them anymore. I'm going to chain 6. You can chain a different number if you want to lengthen your ribbing. This is going to give us a ribbing of 5. So starting from the second chain from my hook, I'm going to work into the back loops of the chains with single crochets. So that should end up with 5 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So here we are, and what you're going to notice is kind of these, we're going to be like stacking them as we go. So what you'll see here, I'm going to slip stitch into the next stitch. From, kind of depends, maybe I'll do it here. I'm trying to decide what looks better. I usually do into the next stitch, but for some reason that doesn't look good. Then I'm going to slip stitch into the next stitch along the glove. So that's building, we're going to treat this basically as if we were chaining 1, the slip stitch up serves as that. You'll turn your work to work the ribbing again. Now this is how we make the ribbing. We're going to, and I kind of push my yarn to the back here, and we're going to work into the back loop only with single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 single crochets in the back loop. So you see how it's giving this ridge. Chain 1, turn your work to work down. Again, working the back loop only, single crochet your way down your 5 stitches, or however many stitches you decide to go with. Oops. Okay, and this is my last one. And then again, from where you already slip stitched and worked up, you're going to slip stitch into the next stitch on the glove to basically secure this down. Then you're going to slip stitch again into the next stitch. That's going to be your chain 1 upward. Then you're going to just repeat that. You're going to single crochet in the back loop only, up the ribbing. I'm going a little faster now since we kind of established that, and I should probably try to show you a little better. You're going to chain 1, turn your work. So this is kind of the next stack of ribbing. Single crochet in the back loop only, all the way down. Slip stitch into the next stitch on the glove. Slip stitch again into the next stitch, treating that as your chain 1, and then we're going back up. And I meant to be working over these, but I didn't. So what I'm going to do is just snip these, weave them in, and I'm going to continue my ribbing here. So do that until you're all the way around and meet the beginning of the ribbing. Okay, I had finished it off and forgot I was recording this. So I you can either end up at the bottom or at the top. I try to end up at the bottom if I can, because I like working it up the top. And what I do is just slip stitch my way up. You can also just sew it up if you'd prefer that. But I'm going to try. It's going to probably be a little harder now that I cut the yarn. And I just kind of slip stitch as I go. I do this a little differently from time to time, but I've started finding that I like to overlap it here, because oh, I'm sorry, I'm going off camera. You see how it kind of matches up the pattern a bit. So while the feel of it is a little bulkier, I like that look, and it's not a bothersome amount of bulk. All right, that's the last one. And then pull the yarn, and then I'll just weave that in. Make sure this part doesn't look like it's stretching as much as it is. And then, yeah, so I'll do that in my own time. And the last part, you can simplify this because shorter ribbing I find is a little trickier to do, but not much. If you got comfortable with this, you can totally do this. And again, if you like it, I don't like that it sags so much here, so I like to give it a little extra over the fingers. And so you can either attach your yarn and maybe work some half double crochets or a double crochet trim around here, but I like it to match the ribbing at the bottom. And since with the hat we had the ribbing I think just gives it a cohesive look. So I'll show you the ribbing. So attach anywhere you want. I like to attach kind of into, to secure it very well into the stitch itself. So like here instead of just the back loop. Anywhere you want. I like to do it just closer to the thumb, just because that seems like a place where you would have a seam. Join the yarn. And of course you're going to do the matching, or if you want to change it up, you can do the light purple or whatever color you're using, right? But I'm just going to match up my ribbon color. I'm going to chain 3. And so following the very same principles we just did, you're going starting from second from your hook, single crochet into the back loops, down. So since we did 3 here, that means we have 2 stitches. Then I'm going to kind of slip stitch into the next stitch at the top, slip stitch into the next one, turn my work, slip stitch, I'm sorry, not slip stitch. Now I'm going to single crochet into the back loops only, working my way up. That's just 2, chain 1, single crochet into the back loops only, slip stitch into the next stitch, slip stitch into the next stitch to treat as our chain 1, turn our work, and continue. And the only thing I say why it's a little more difficult is because it doesn't have as clean of a look as of ribbing as this bottom one, but I think it works fine. It has enough of that bumpy texture. You could also make a chain 4 and do 3 if you really wanted to make sure you see the ribbing well, but I prefer the 2. So go ahead and do that all the way around, same as you did for the bottom. All right, and following again the same process, once you've gone around, you're going to slip stitch your ribbing together, cut, weave in the ends, and here you are. And so here's what they look like to give you an idea. So you have any adjustments you want to do, you can make this ribbing taller or higher if you want. So you can see a little bit my fingers, but I expect this to stretch a little bit, so I'm pretty fine with that. So that's what that looks like. I love them, and some of my nails have fallen off. But yeah, that's the tutorial for the fingerless gloves. And so you will also have the tutorial for the cat ear beanie hat. The next one I'm doing is the Jasmine cowl. So you can have all these together as a beautiful set. I will link those below, and there will be a written pattern on my Etsy and Ravelry if interested. So thank you. Let me know if you have any questions or you need any help, or if tag me on social media with your finished products. I would love to see them.